What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane podcast, episode number 41 today for the brand new season in Formula One. The Australian Grand Prix was earlier today, and so you're back with the usual host, myself and Callum. Tom might join us a little bit later. But yeah, the season has started, and we have a different race winner. We do not have a Mercedes winning the race, and I believe all three of our predictions correct for the race winner. I think we all predicted Vettel, did we not?
I predicted Raikkonen, but I've got Ferrari right.
Okay, you got the Ferrari right.
Yeah.
Me and Tom predicted Vettel. I got my top two prediction correct. I predicted Vettel first, Hamilton second, with Hamilton on pole. That was correct. Yeah, so different winner to the race. This is your top 10 running order if you haven't seen it already. Vettel in first place, Hamilton second, Bottas third, Raikkonen fourth, Verstappen fifth, Massa sixth, Perez seventh, Sainz eighth, Kvyat ninth, and then to round out the top 10, Ocon in 10th. So, well, what can I say? I'm going to get the positives out of the way of that race first. I think personally it's great that Vettel, it's just a different winner, and it's great to see the Ferrari hype held up, because I was really quite worried that I falsely believed the hype, everyone was falsely believing the hype, but it looks like the analysts, the experts in the paddock were correct, that they saw the Ferrari pace on the tyres, and they had it, because Hamilton's tyres fell away in that race, Bottas was even catching him, and so Ferrari, genuine pace, as I said on Twitter, it's now up to Mercedes to answer the door. Ferrari have come knocking, and now next race we'll see if Mercedes now can answer, and it's going to be a bit of a development race. Unfortunately, though, that's really the only main race at the moment, development race, because I think Callum can now take it away with, I don't know, do you want to sum up that race for us?
Let's not try and sugarcoat this, and I think I've seen way too much sugarcoating, and I think us as Formula One fans have become a little bit too accustomed to races like that now, because let's not dodge the obvious fact. On around about lap 52, the last on-track overtake was on a lap 19. That was when I did the tweet when me and Aarava were talking on Twitter. There wasn't an on-track overtake for a solid 25 laps.
I didn't believe you when you tweeted that. I thought, he's got that wrong, surely. You've miscounted that.
And, okay, the pit stop battles and everything, that does add to the excitement. But when there's only one stop in the Grand Prix, and that usually dictating the race winner halfway through the race, you can see where the troubles arise. And I'm not going to go into this podcast being all pessimistic, because like I've said, may as well get the positive out first. It's great to see Vettel back up there. It's, even as a Hamilton fan, I got bored of Hamilton winning sometimes, and it's nice to see fresh faces, and it's nice to see a different team up there as well, because it especially Ferrari, it's just Ferrari are Formula One.
Yeah, it's that good. It's that good feeling factor vibe, of you hear the Italian national anthem. It's just that good feeling, like that buzz around it. And for all the analysis we could say about the actual racing wheel to wheel with Vettel, Hamilton, or lack of thereof, it's going to be interesting, as I said. Now that Mercedes have to answer back, so there is going to be. Although we'll see. Obviously, Australia. I think this race also highlighted how much of a crap track Australia is, or Melbourne is, I should say. I think it's as Callum was saying just before we started recording, it's the fans that makes us keep coming back to Australia as the opening round. Apart from that, Melbourne's never been an amazing track, and especially with these new regulations, it just really didn't seem to click that much. But we'll see how it goes. We go to China next time for the next race, so that's swapped with Bahrain this year. So we'll see China, big high-speed circuit, so we'll see what Mercedes can do, how the racing will be, but even, minus the racing, it is going to be interesting to see if Mercedes can bounce back, and it might be this sort of yo-yo effect of Ferrari, Mercedes, and then there will be that kind of title battle in air quotes, not actually a physical battle on track, but maybe just a battle of the actual pacing and the strategy, which is better than nothing, I guess, that we got of past seasons. But
it's good to know that you don't know who's going to win the race in terms of a team. Because obviously we've got so accustomed to just, which Mercedes driver is going to win? Is it going to be Rosberg or is it going to be Hamilton?
Exactly.
It's now, as much as Raikkonen was kind of out of it this race, it is still, if you think about it, two teams, that's four drivers. So you've still got a bit of variability of the entire podium. You still don't know who's going to be in that order. And also, with Ferrari kind of just stepping it up and kind of proving the critics wrong, or right in some cases, and they also proved Hamilton right. Because Hamilton's doubting all the way through the weekend was like, what on earth was he on about? You can lead every single session it doesn't matter. You can lead every single session in qualifying. You still don't have the points.
Well, the Ferrari sandbags were out. The Ferrari sandbags were out. They had the big one strapped on for all practice sessions. They didn't really show anything, and I honestly think Vettel may have knew that all along. I think he may have just, in free practice didn't seem like he was very much on it. Qualifying, he said they genuinely couldn't catch up, which is fair enough. But obviously, we've seen in the past, you don't necessarily have to actually have the best car over one lap to actually have the best car in the race. It's a different kind of ball game there, and you get the points for the race win. So, I think Ferrari played that quite tactically in terms of. Still, they're not saying much. I think the nearest we got to was on Sky F1. They interviewed one of the engineers, and he got a little bit kind of, emotional about, it's great that we can celebrate this for a few weeks. But, all throughout the weekend, Ferrari been keeping it calm, keeping it, as most people said before this season, a bit more organised, a bit more focused, rather than just shouting all the time in the press. And it's worked out for them. It's
paid off absolutely beautifully, to be honest. But I don't think Ferrari are going to get too accustomed to it, because I think they realise that it's going to be a long, hard-fought battle. It's a very long season, and I think, like you said, it's going to be a yo-yo, because I think with a slight Mercedes with a slight strategy blunder today, with the overcut actually proving more prominent than what the undercut has been more recently, it has kept it. It's kept it quite exciting in the terms of the fact that we can maybe think that one driver might be, because obviously Mercedes have always been quite good in one lap pace, so that's definitely one of their best. It's one of their best positives about their team, and especially about Hamilton as well. We know he's really good on a one lap, and also we know that about Vettel as well. So maybe he did push that Ferrari to the limit, but Ferrari have never been amazing on qualifying. They've always struggled. But it's always Mercedes that have been the one that struggled with the tyres. It's always it's always Mercedes that it's almost like a shock, and I don't get why, because nothing's really new, to be honest, because Mercedes have always been that team that are a little bit
on the limit.
Skeptical about tyres. They're always like, Lewis, don't question, just push and all this, and it's finally today, them problems have cost them a race win.
Yeah, I mean, it's like back to Singapore. Like, remember they couldn't explain it, and the team kept blaming the tyres, and Hamilton didn't believe his own team about what happened in Singapore 2014 with the tyres. So there's always been that factor of there's just some parts of the entire race weekend where Mercedes have consistently just been a little bit iffy, and they're sort of just hoping their engine can basically pound out all the kind of deficit.
Yeah, it is. It's just so much fresh. There's a lot of freshness to this season, and one thing I think we've just got to state one obvious thing as well. The cars looked absolutely amazing during this race. On the grid, I'm not being funny. That just looked right. The tyres and the wide wings and everything.
The rear end shots.
Oh, it just looked really good.
It looked good. It was like
Martin Brundle said it. It looked right straight away, and that definitely fit into the mould of what Formula 1 kind of is. And you kind of wonder why they ever made the cars narrow, because they just absolutely
you look back at the old
when
cars,
they're
they
racing
just look a
against
little bit
each
wrong
other.
now.
It kind of made me laugh though when everyone's saying that, they might crash into each other at the start of the race. There was only one crash. I don't think they're Formula 1 drivers. I don't think they're going to really struggle with an extra a bit of wideness on their car, but the actual race start I thought was fairly uneventful. In a
was
sense.
Quite calm. I was expecting more from Ferrari. I thought, we all thought, I think, Vettel would get a great start, Raikkonen would get a good start, but no, he even said it on the podium interview. He was quite cautious, a little bit nervous maybe, didn't get away too well. He actually lost it to Bottas a little bit and then had to get it back in the braking zone. Raikkonen definitely lost it because Verstappen was right alongside him and then he had to outbrake him into turn one. But yeah, in an overall sense, I actually expect there to be more drama because they talked all about this, the new clutch system, more emphasis on the driver, more randomized. But most people got a pretty good getaway in general. Right, so now Tom's joining us as well. So I'll get this in right now because Tom is, out of us three, the most Ferrari fan out of all of us. I mean, he doesn't say really completely supports them, but he has a soft spot, obviously, because his hero is Schumacher. So, Tom, let us know what you thought of that race, or just in general, Vettel winning, from your perspective.
A procession, but a welcome change.
Yep.
It's one of them things where you spend all winter hoping for it to happen, but I genuinely didn't think Vettel would have won today. I still think Lewis would have won it, especially considering he took the lead into the first corner. So it's good to see that we still can get a spanner thrown into the works like that, and it's good. I enjoyed the intensity and the sort of what's the word I'm looking for, like the tediousness of the whole race and trying not to get a foot wrong. And I personally questioned Ferrari's call to keep Vettel out. I thought they should have responded straight away. So there you go. I guess I'm not always right, but it was just interesting for a while. But obviously, once Vettel got into the lead and Hamilton was struggling, and it sort of started to set in the fact that it was a really boring race. So mixed emotions. Obviously, I'm just happy that we got a
you're
different
happy
winner.
that.
Like I said, the sport needed something else. Like the fact we've seen the stats on Twitter. I don't know if you saw them or not, but the fact that we have a non-Mercedes championship leader for the first time since Abu Dhabi 2013, and Vettel's leading for the first time since Abu Dhabi 2013. It's like it's a welcome change that was needed. I know it's only one race done, but it's good and bad.
It's a nice start.
I'm happy because obviously Ferrari won a race, but at the same time, I'm objective enough to realise that the issue that we've had for the last 3, 4, 5 years is still there. So
it's like we've hit the ground, we've hit the ground running, but then we've tripped over straight away. That's what's just happened.
Yeah, we've started running with a different winner, nice change of pace, and then we tripped over the fact that the problem we've been talking about for like a year now. We literally said it back in early 2016 about this issue, and I'm unhappy that our thoughts came completely true, utterly true. That all the engineers were correct as well. Even Hamilton was saying in pre-season, I think one of the quotes was that the engineers have said that it's not going to be any better. It's going to be worse. And he was saying, I hope they're wrong. I hope their engineering knowledge is wrong. But you can't really get those sort of facts. You can't get those facts wrong of physics. That unfortunately.
Like I said, I think it probably will be worse, but. Obviously, this is Australia. Let's not forget it's a street circuit.
Yeah, we mentioned that already just before. That going to China.
I think China's still going to be poor. But the thing is, starting from Bahrain, the DRS zones are going to be extended, aren't they? Starting from the. I don't know if it's China or Bahrain, but I think from the second or third race onwards, they're going to extend the DRS zone. So hopefully that will encourage a bit more overtaking.
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. Well, Australia, they couldn't have extended them anymore, obviously, because it was only right. Otherwise, they'd be opening around the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is going to be a case of, I think, better judgment will be made after the first 4 races. But it's. I personally just. I really hope I'm proved wrong. I really do. But there's just too much, especially obviously, from my perspective, part of my university degree is on this topic, and I just looking at all the CFD stuff, all the numbers, all the flows. It's the first time I can use my degree in a useful manner on this channel, so I'm going to use it.
Okay,
it's just all there. It's just all there. Like you could see it from a mile off last year, and I really hope that. Yeah, I really do hope, because even Massa said in I don't know if you saw, Massa said he was underwhelmed in qualifying about the cars and said they felt a lot faster in Spain. So I'm hoping that when we do go to proper circuits, that things do change and that things are very rapid in terms of wheel-to-wheel action, and because you're using the downforce to good effect actually through those high bends, that would be a lot better.
Agreed, yeah.
Saying that,
all weekend long, people were saying, where's this 5 seconds, although they didn't improve the second in qualifying. You've got to remember it's a street circuit, and they can only go so fast before they're literally going to be in the wall every lap.
Yeah. Saying that, the moves we did get were decent. I mean, it just would have been better if they weren't, what was it, Cal, 30 laps apart?
35-ish.
But Ocon's move was very, very tasty, and to get points in his debut for Force India, I thought he did a great job in 10th place. And talking more about that top 10, let's get to that. So we've talked about Vettel and Hamilton really, but talking moreover, Bottas for a brief bit, we thought he was catching Hamilton, might have made a move, and gotten up to him, at least made it a bit tricky for Mercedes. Then it kind of leveled out a little bit. Hamilton talked about a damaged floor at one point and said, is his floor okay? And then his tyres went off. Then he talked about, I'm getting power in and
everything,
out.
Basically.
So it was almost like Horner. You remember when he talked about Vettel managing 20 issues back in 2013, I think it was, something like that. It was like Hamilton was managing so many issues. So I think also, the Ferrari mechanic, that Sky interview, did say that with the strategy, it sort of fell into their hands a little bit. But, that's Formula One.
What was that damaged floor all about?
It was a weird
he never
one.
went off.
I
none
know,
of the
I
replay
watched
showed
Spanish coverage, so I've heard different things.
Right. Well,
I
none
can
of
tell you
the
about
replay
Alonso's
showed it.
interview after.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That was a weird one. But then looking back, Bottas third, Raikkonen fourth. He was sort of nowhere in that race for me. Like, I didn't even see him that much. It was an odd one.
Yeah.
Bad race.
The
bad on my
drivers...
behalf, because I thought he was going to win.
Yeah.
But,
Talking about that. Let's kind of compare our predictions a little bit. So this is my predictions. I said Hamilton pole, Vettel first, Hamilton second, Raikkonen third, Bottas fourth, Verstappen fifth. So I got the top 5 people in the top 5 correct. Just the order a little bit muddled.
I said the same, but I said Ricciardo fifth.
Right.
Obviously, little did I know that.
So
issues in that.
Yeah. So that was I was actually quite happy with that. I was quite proud that I got the kind of top 5 of the people correct and the top 2 order correct. In terms of the team order, well, if we look further down, Verstappen 5th, very boring race for him. Massa 6th, same thing. Perez though, and Sainz, Kvyat and Ocon having to do some overtaking and some strategy work. Perez overtaking the Toro Rossos for 7th place, Sainz 8th, Kvyat 9th, but Ocon 10th. So pretty much like how all 3 of us sort of called it almost in a way that Williams may be just ahead, but then slowly I think we'll see those 4 drivers from 7th to 10th overtake Williams and then have a scrap of their own for 4th.
Who made the I think we all predicted Toro Rosso to be into the top 10.
Yeah, I think we all did that. Yeah. I was the one that said I think top 4.
As a package, they look like the 4th best team as a package.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at that bottom, you look at the bottom of the top 10, and you've got to say, Force India. I wasn't expecting Force India to really be in the mix, and I think that was a solid race for them.
Yeah.
And Toro Rosso. I'm actually quite impressed with Toro Rosso because from the point where they were in testing to where they were now with reliability issues and there's certain things that you can get on top on, I'm glad that they've kind of got over the top of that because Toro Rosso look like they've got a decent chance being in 8th and 9th. And Kvyat, I'm actually quite impressed with Kvyat. I think he had a solid qualifying. So I think both of them, both Sainz and Kvyat are kind of pushing each other quite a lot so far. Yeah, both of them were really, really good. But again with Force India as well. That was really, really solid. Ocon still right in the mix, getting points. So you can't. There's no really complaints from either of them 2 teams, to be honest. With Williams as well, they can't even complain with Massa. It's just the fact that Stroll didn't really have a stroll in the park.
What an awful race that was for him. He got up to 15th, fair enough, and then just couldn't overtake, and then he went then he just as I said, strolled into the gravel.
He had a brake by wire issue, I think, or something like that. Some sort of brake issue because obviously I think he outbroke himself at turn 13, I think it was, and it did look quite non-driver related. But Stroll did make me wince a little bit into turn 1. He started in last, and he was steaming into turn 1, and he almost lumped his front wing off straight away. I was like, if he did lose his front wing, he would have got so much hate. And I'd almost feel sorry for him because I know he crashed in FP3, and I knew why it's always the rookies that crash in FP3 then ruin their qualifying. There's just something about rookies that always do that. They don't crash in FP1 or 2 when it's a relaxed Friday. They always do it when it matters. And I was quite impressed with Stroll so far throughout the weekend. Thought, solid FP1, solid FP2. He's just getting himself up to speed, and then right when it matters.
He's looked a bit shaky all weekend. Almost like the car's been a bit more of a handful
at the wheel
than he expected.
He's
been shaking more than people that I know. Like literally, he generally looks like he's struggling. Every corner's just like,
he's shaking. The wheel was non-stop moving. I think going into the penultimate corner, he's just wrestling. It's not like he's not even wrestling, but you're right on board with Massa, and he's nice and smooth, and then Stroll is wild with the wheel, which is very odd. Maybe that's his driving style, steering from left to right through braking zones and everything. But I think he needs to bounce back pretty quickly because otherwise Massa's going to walk all over him.
I think as a whole, the top 10 was quite intriguing. I think I do agree. Force India did well. I think they would have got 1 car in the points anyway because I don't think they dropped off that bad. I know my prediction was quite far down, and so I've deleted him but if I remember correctly, I think I put him 7th. But obviously Perez, I do believe he's still he's at a good level. He can do better than Alonso. He can sort of drag a bad car through and try and get a job done. Stroll was nowhere.
Top 10.
I thought he'd be higher up. Hulkenberg had a good race, I got to say. I thought he had a good weekend as a whole. Yesterday in qualifying, compared to his teammate, obviously I know his teammate had issues in both commas.
We'll have a rant about Palmer later. I've already got one brewing.
Hulkenberg looked good all weekend. You got to say, I think if that car just gets a few more bits and bobs on it, and they find a little sweet spot, I think Hulkenberg could be sort of a constant top 10 outsider, 1 point, 2 point sort of driver this season, which would be a step up for Renault compared to where they were last season. And also, I think we'll go into this properly, but just going to mention it now, but Giovinazzi, great stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, shout out to
Giovinazzi. Survived his first F1 race. He didn't know he was going to be in this race until yesterday morning, and he said he thought it was a joke that he was going to be in the Sauber. He was told. I think he said he was told he was going to get told that night on Friday, but he'd already gone to bed apparently. So that was quite funny that he just woke up and was like, "Oh, what? I'm driving an F1 car this weekend." So to say that, only one practice session, which was FP3, which is usually just qualifying practice.
Yeah.
Do qualifying, decent, looked at one point to maybe be beating Ericsson, and then comes through to beat Ericsson. Ericsson obviously DNF'd, but still, a lot of people DNF'd. People are pointing that out, but still, first F1 race, survived it, 12th. So
he did 26 laps before today.
Weekend. Wow. Exactly. So it's great.
There you go. I think I will say a note on Sauber. They haven't looked as bad as I actually thought. I think any of us thought they actually looked pretty alright during qualifying in the weekend. I think they've. I think while the season's young, they should really make the most of it and try and get a point if possible wherever they can. So
can I have a quick shout out to Haas actually because and more Grosjean because after an incredible qualifying performance, I thought that was so unfairly snatched away from him.
Yeah.
When I saw him coming into the pits with that smoke, I was just like, "Are you taking the piss?"
It was going to be another
strike twice, was it?
It was going to be another chance for the team radio. This is a win for us. Like he was doing great in the first stint as well. It wasn't like just like one off quali pace. He had the pace there in the race to keep it in that top 6 or whatever it was, I think. So yeah, gutting for him.
K-Mag had a very clumsy one today. That incident.
Yeah, on the flip side, odd one. Like his the first crash was weird. Just he got on the curb and it's all straightened up the car, but. You got to. I think you would feel like need better judgment for that.
Yeah, you've got to be a bit more on your toes at the start of the race. You can't just.
I just find it funny.
It was strange how the FIA, the whole penalty situation, how they've been a lot more lenient. I think I'm not sure what the exact law is in the rule book now, but not last season. Magnussen would have had a penalty all day long.
I wouldn't say a penalty, so I don't know.
Drive-through or. But then again, I think also the FIA have kind of realised now that as much as he deserves a penalty, the penalty is that you're at the back of the field anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's not what more can you do?
To time with that, I watched obviously Spanish coverage, and the second it happened, Pedro de la Rosa just went, "That's just a racing incident for me," and I was like, "Okay." And
I just don't think a massive deal. So,
yeah, fair enough. I don't mind. I mean, as long as the law is enforced when it has to be enforced correctly, then I'm all for it. So just let the drivers
do their thing.
I will say I've got a theory, and I know it's been mentioned a lot of times, and I do think it's a good idea to improve F1, especially if the racing's poor this season. Especially considering how many cars were lapped today. I think blue flag should be scrapped, or at least give it a try. I think that would have made the race today
state of dirty air
a bit more tasty. In my opinion, considering how many cars got lapped. I agree with the dirty air thing. It would have been tricky, but think of how interesting. Now, that little pack, I think it was like a pack of 5 cars when Vettel and Lewis had to get through them. It was like both Toro Rossos, a Sauber, a McLaren, I think, and I don't know, some other car. There's like a pack of 5 and they had to try and get through them, and obviously they were losing time. If they had to overtake all of those, it would have been interesting to see what happened. Because we could have had more situations, more like when Hulkenberg overtook Ocon, who was overtaking Alonso. They went 3 wide into turn 1, sort of thing. Yeah. You get more of those sort of scenarios where, because he's trying to lap one car, turns out that the lap car's overtaking another one, and then obviously all 3 of them are racing. I think it would have made it interesting.
I see where you're coming from, because it's just that kind of closeness, and like, although yes, it's like they're not really battling for the same position. It's just the fact that
But
it just
means
mixes.
something.
Yeah, it just mixes it up because it means okay, there is a bit of an obstacle to get past, and it just makes for actual racing where they'll have to overtake properly. And in the race where there wasn't many overtakes, that would be
it got me
not a bad
thinking
thing.
during the race. I was like, how can this be better? I mean, the Vettel's lapped up to 7th place. Surely we can do something with that. And the fact that Ross Brawn sort of loosely stated over pre-season testing that they want to do like a unofficial off race to test stuff. That could be an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's a very good idea, actually. I quite like that. But to be fair, I quite like that idea because obviously we had a severe lack of racing in today's race. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not make
the fans won't care if you're at the race.
They're overtaking, and they're not overtaking for position. They're overtaking for track position, though. They're overtaking to get past them. That's the whole point of racing, I guess. So. It could be something that could be trialled. I think definitely if he wants to do them test races, then I'm all for it. But expect a lot of fans to be they'll be very anti, but then they'll be very pro very quickly, depending on whether it's your driver being stuck behind someone or if it's their rival being stuck behind.
If the theory works or not, obviously.
I think also you underestimate, like, if it's just a lone car, I think you underestimate how much drivers would want to block someone on the lead anyway. Like, you know, in the case of Van Dorn, he was quickly told, just let Ricciardo through, you're not racing him. In modern F1, that's how strategy works. A lot of the time, you don't actually want to fight them. So it will only happen in certain situations where you would actually get stuck maybe quite a bit. Obviously, not as, it would obviously still be harder than just the blue flag situation. But I honestly don't think it might be big of an issue as maybe you would think. Because I think a lot of people would just be like, yeah, can you just let him through? Because we're not in this race. Don't find him too much.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. When Lewis pit, he came out behind Haas. I think it was Magnussen. What would have happened if that would have been for position? As in, he would have actually had to race to get past him and then get past him.
Same with Vettel. Vettel,
exactly.
when Hamilton pit, he was behind the Sauber.
Behind the Sauber, exactly.
And Alonso then as well.
You can split it various ways, but it would definitely... It makes strategy way more interesting because it's not like, a lap car, let's just not factor him in. You'd have to factor in lap cars on the circuit as well.
You really have to find a gap then.
Yeah. I think it'd be an interesting concept that I think after today and sort of watching it develop, I thought to myself, you know what, that's not a bad idea actually.
Yeah. Could be something that we need maybe a bit of feedback on in the comments, but... Yeah, I'd like to hear some other people's opinions on that. But rounding out also another little shout out to Danny Rick, who's had just a typical home race. To be honest,
no one's home race is as good as they ever want it to be, apart from maybe if you're Hamilton in a Mercedes the last 2 years.
But the crash in qualifying was a bit odd, I thought.
It was. I saw the analysis at Sky, like what they're talking about, how the cars seem to go a lot more. Like when you get to that limit, they go quicker. Like it's got more downforce, so you can push a harder limit. But once you find that limit, they go just like anything because the air to hitting the shark fin is taking actually downforce away when you get too sideways. And like Dan's case, it just literally just went. And then when you get to the race today, earlier, just calamity after calamity, that you had the gearbox change anyway, so that would have been a penalty anyway, 5 places down. Then you had the failure on the in-lap to the actual parade, and then, at the end, the way it ended. I think he was like on the radio, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I think just a race to forget.
Yeah, and I think we can go on for this for 15 flat minutes, so we're trying not to go too long, but I think we can move on to the main topic of the race, and the main topic of pre-season testing. And obviously, this is the orange cars. I watched the Alonso interview on Spanish coverage, but I'm going to kick it off with this. Alonso just stated that we are last, saying that McLaren are the slowest team on the grid. So, discuss.
Well, they are. Giovinazzi beat Van Dorn.
Yeah, Van Dorn was last and Alonso didn't finish. And it's quite embarrassing now, isn't it? Because I heard, I think all three of us have seen the onboards. I think
that was in free practice 2 or something.
Worst sounding engines. I don't know what's cracking off in the back of that McLaren. In the back of that McLaren, but there's something. It's not like how did they mess it up that badly from 2016? I know they changed bits, but bloody hell.
It just seems like they sort of like, when you just piece your homework together on the last day and try to get scrape a C. Just try to scrape the barrel and try and get an easy, quick pass.
C.
So it's like, it just feels like they've put the engine together last second and they've got that rumbling sound. It's like, yeah, it works, but we just got a few issues we need to iron out. But it's like, I did a bit of research. Turns out, I think last year's engine had reached its maximum development peak, which was quite surprising to me. And they built a new one for this year, and the one that they're using in Australia is the one that you're listening to, which makes the barbecue sound. So, I think Honda have really
So what's happened here is Honda have taken the McLaren 2012 to 2013 route. They hit a wall of development, tried something completely new, and it just didn't work.
But they was already at the back anyway, so they've just gone further back.
Yeah, so it's not exactly, because McLaren was freaking winning in 2012.
But it's okay. They'll have a new engine ready in 2 months.
2 months. Bloody, I can't believe that. Imagine telling, right, I'm not being funny, imagine telling Van Dorn and Alonso that, oh yeah, guys, right, new engine, got a new engine.
Better shot.
Oh, when's it in? In 2 months' time. I'm not being funny, in 2 months' time they'll be at round 5.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's a few things they have to do. First of all, they have to throw as much shit at the wall to see what sticks. Secondly, I know they're loyal, but the fact they're restricting themselves to Japanese-only workers, I think they're missing out on a lot of people who do have a lot of experience in the engine department, and they're missing out people they could potentially sign from other places who would genuinely help them out. So, I think McLaren need to just sort of like, you know what, screw it, let's just get someone on board who knows what he's doing, and let's just try and make something happen. Obviously, no engine tokens, so we'll see how they develop this year. They've got a lot on their plate. Going on the Alonso interview that I mentioned, I watched it. Alonso says he did the best race of his life, but he says he's never had such a bad car ever. Obviously, we know it's a lie because he drove the Minardi in 2001. But
probably
other
says
than
the Minardi's better.
He said it's the worst car he's ever driven. He said he's been saving fuel every single lap, coasting, losing up to a second per lap every single lap just because of fuel saving. And he just says he's so underpowered and it's just horrible. He literally didn't hold back. It was brutal. And if I get to watch the interview back, I'll try and translate it completely. But it was brutal. And
God, that's shocking, that.
The statement he came out with, I think it was yesterday or Friday, when he said, McLaren Honda better respond, otherwise I will, or something like that. Or they better step up their game, or I will as in I'll walk or I'll leave. Fact is, I'm still not convinced he's gonna hang his helmet up at the end of the season, because like we said, Bottas is in a 1-year contract, and Vettel just won today. So we'll see what happens.
I'm not being funny or anything, but he must feel like he's got egg on his face right now with that Mercedes offer. I'm not being funny, but he could have been on the podium today.
If Vettel wins the championship this season, it's a massive if, I know. I'm just saying, just for the sake of this particular conversation we're having, if Vettel wins the championship, Bottas is in a 1-year contract. Alonso, free agent.
Pieces.
Could be.
Fit.
Could be. Yeah. But let's talk about a driver that no one likes. And
you pissed off the 5 people who support him in the comments.
Oh, bless him. But, right, okay, I'm going to defend myself first. I'm a Hamilton fan, and I know that Lewis Hamilton used to be an arrogant little shit back in 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Well, he still sort of is half and half.
2017. But he's matured. Jolyon Palmer's interview was probably the most atrocious interview I think I've ever witnessed in my life. He threw the entirety of his Renault team under the bus, saying the car was terrible on the brakes, the balance was awful, they put the car together wrong. Let's just analyse why they put it together wrong. Who binned it in FP2? Was it FP2? I think it was, yeah. Who just lost it at the rear and just slammed both ends of the car into the wall? Honestly, I don't get how he's in Formula 1 at the minute with that sort of attitude. I'd honestly get anyone. If someone was dragging my team's name through the shit that much, I'd get rid of him. Honestly. That was actually atrocious. Equivalent
of the manager losing the dressing room. The fact is, though, it's not mid-season, it's the first race of the season. So
I was just absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
Like, how can you have that much arrogance to say they put the car together wrong? You put it together right then. Obviously, because Julian Palmer's such a good engineer and everything. But yeah. I don't know whether anyone else wants to vent on him. But I thought I needed to get that out there.
Well, he's not any good, is he?
I'm surprised he got the seat in the first place.
Oh, he's got a bit of a stack, and
he's got a bit of cash in hand.
He's got a few dollar signs. I've got the exact statement.
He was 3.3 seconds off in qualifying as well.
Yeah, poor form. I mean, if you compare it to Hulkenberg, he's had his head up, his chin up all weekend. So there you go. Sorry, I've got the full statement from Alonso. This is the exact paragraph that sort of like stayed in my head. Few times I've had such an uncompetitive car without any winter preparation, having to fuel save in a brutal way. I think we had to lift about a second per lap, and even so, we're in the points. That's the main part of it. But the way he said it, the tone he said it in, was just such sarcasm mixed with frustration and just wanting to just let off steam.
It almost makes me laugh when people say that Alonso isn't a good driver anymore.
Yeah, he was in the top 10.
He's in the top 10 in a McLaren Honda, and that's not even a joke anymore. That's some serious talent that he's managed to manage that, to be honest. And even in qualifying, to get into Q2, I was surprised. I really didn't think that
even
he'd
Zach
got that
Brown,
McLaren Honda.
Zach Brown, the new CEO, was like, if we get out of Q1, it'll be a miracle. It'll be great. And he did it.
It was absolutely crazy, absolute madness. So they've got a steep hill to climb. It's at the bottom of the field. There's a few people that need to get the shit together. Put it that way, either drivers or team personnel, because it's quite sticky at the bottom, and it almost makes Sauber, because like we mentioned, it almost makes Sauber look quite good, because they're normally the teams that have quite weird dramas between drivers and slight issues here and there. But you look at Sauber and you go, they're not a bad, decent little team, to be fair. They're looking quite good at the back, and especially with a Giovinazzi in the car, because a lot of people are saying that Giovinazzi deserves that seat.
Well,
I don't know.
I think it should be Giovinazzi and Verline. I like Ericsson's. To be fair to Ericsson, I actually thought last season did a decent enough job.
Yeah.
But I think that's a much more exciting lineup for Sauber and for Ferrari as a whole for having Giovinazzi and Verline in there.
Here's the thing. There's some tweets around the weekend. There's a rumor. Does Verline really want to be in F1?
Why would he not be?
There was a rumor floating around because it was an odd reason to pull out of a race. The fact that you're not fit enough.
I watched the Sky coverage, and Ted was saying some stuff about Verline pulling out. And from his perspective, from what I can take from it, I think it was more of a... I think it actually shows some maturity, perhaps, of Verline, just to be like, I don't think I can actually do this race fully, and I think I won't be at my optimum. So put Giovinazzi in the car, because this is the best chance we have, maybe, for points early on. And more of a maturity factor for the team.
The third driver, though.
No, but for the team factor, it shows maturity that, okay, for the sake of the team, I think Giovinazzi will do a better job than me right now, because I just don't think I can make the entire race with my neck still being good. And I think at the end of the race, I'll be coasting, trying to just survive the race. And that may be the point where you get the point at the end of the race. So there's that perspective. I've not heard this rumour, so maybe Tom can fill us in.
It's just a few tweets, loose tweets I saw from some of the F1 accounts. Also, if you remember Verline, he said the whole, I accept I wasn't ready for the Mercedes seat yet. He said that.
Because he was too immature.
But I feel like he wanted that Force India seat. My prediction, sort of what I think is, he genuinely doesn't want to race for Sauber. I think it's one of them ones where he's been thrown in there for the sake of having a race seat so he can keep developing. But I think he genuinely thought he could have had a step up. And
I two seats technically.
I mean, put it this way: if you're an F1 driver, like give us as an example, I would die to drive an F1 car. If you're telling me you're not really fit, I think I would probably fight through to give it a go. I don't know. I mean, that's just me.
Well, Alonso wanted to race in Bahrain, didn't he, last year?
Exactly, there's a difference there.
And I think the decision was only made till the Thursday.
And why did he drive Friday, not Saturday? I don't know. And the fact, Verline's not 36, he's 21. Like, he's not an old man. He's a very young, strong dude. Like he
it
can
shows
recover
maturity.
quick.
Yeah.
Depends on what you flip it.
It does show a lot of maturity.
But I've seen a few tweets saying, "Does he want it enough?" Basically, that's what I'm getting.
That's why I rate Ocon higher than him now.
I think there's that argument of like that standard sort of like, I don't know, macho sort of thing, like just get on with it. But I think that there's, on the flip side, I think it does show maturity if you're thinking about the team as a whole. Yeah, and if it is true that, we'll never know, but I'm just playing devil advocate.
It's almost a little bit forced now, though, that like he suddenly realised, the reason Ocon got the Force India seat is because he's more mature than me. And obviously there's the rumours that circling that Verline isn't a very good driver to work with. He's now all of a sudden go, okay, this season I'm going to be very, 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 very mature. Look at me. And he's almost then just about, I'm not being funny, but he's almost given up his seat. Because I think Ted said that he'd give the seat to Giovinazzi. And I rate Giovinazzi higher than Verline, and I rate Ocon higher than Verline. I think Verline isn't... He's good, but he just lacks something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is the maturity.
I've genuinely not seen enough of him. Like, obviously, we've just seen him in a manner. Like, I just can't tell with him. But like up against Ocon, I think Ocon had the edge. But then Ocon in the Force India, obviously, it's his first race, so we'll see. But it's just very hard. It's very hard to tell in Formula One when you're talking about these guys that are top talents, quote, in lower cars. It's very hard. It masks it sometimes.
Personally, I didn't think Ocon had the edge on him. I thought he got onto his level last season towards the end. But I remember when Ocon first started, I know obviously the whole getting used to the team and whatnot, but Verline had him easy. And even then, by the end of the season, I don't think it was... Ocon had one good race in Brazil last season. And that's it. I think Verline beat him in every other race. So... I don't know. I do agree. There's something patchy there. But I'm just loosely throwing it out there because there's a few rumours I've seen over the weekend. And obviously, why would you? Like you say, Carl, you bring up a good example there of Alonso. He wanted to race even though he was injured, whereas Verline's sort of happy to step down. So
no driver's happy to give up the seat.
But
really,
like I'm saying, it doesn't add up to me. It seems a bit of an odd one. So we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think this is the last time we'll see Giovinazzi. I'm going to throw that out there.
I'd love to see him back, to be honest. Yeah. I'd really would. But one thing I'd like to mention before obviously we wrap up and everything is our favourite rule last year. The new three tyre
strategy. It's been thrown out the window now.
It's been masked by the durable tyres now.
It's been taken to the back and shot in the fucking face.
Because you look at the strategies.
Oh no, but guys,
first down to 8th or 1 star.
Guys. All the F1 fans wanted lower tyre deck tyres, all right? Okay, we wanted the good old days of F1, all right, where they could push flat out and no degradation, all right?
The thing is, you either have one or you have the other, but the thing is, we're trying to have everything at the minute.
Yeah,
I think that's the problem.
It's a funny one because you can genuinely see the drivers are much happier. They enjoy driving the fact the cars. They can push. They're all happy that they can squeeze their cars to the limit. And to be fair, I don't mind it. I've grown up in an era where the durable tyres were a thing, so to me it's no surprise. My only qualm or issue is you've got 5 compounds available, so why not pick better ones or have them all available?
Well, that's the thing that we brought up last year. I don't know who brought one of us. I think Tom, you might have brought it up last season, but
I've said it before.
That honestly could be quite viable. But
because why bring an ultra soft to Australia can do 36 laps when that's your softest tyre? Because when you go to Monaco and Russia, it's going to be a procession again.
They're going to do no stops, basically.
Honestly, I don't mind that the tyres are harder. Like I said, I've grown up in a time when those were a thing. I like the fact drivers can push the limit, and I respect the fact they've gone back to it. I don't have any issue with it. I have an issue with the fact you've got 5 compounds there, but you can't make them all similarly hard. There's a reason there's 5 different compounds to choose from. For me, the soft should have... I think the soft did a good distance. I think that's about right. I think around 35, 40 laps, that's fair enough. But then I think the ultra soft and the super soft should be considerably more wary. It's those should be like qualifying tyres. So you've got the hard, the medium, and the soft. Stretching it with the super soft maybe. But the ultra has to be like a maximum 10 lap
maximum
qualifying tyre.
Yeah.
Like literally, but it's got to be like 7, 8, 9, 10 laps at max performance, and then it just goes, like it drops off. Mad. The tire.
Funny.
I think that's
instead of the tires being like this.
It's a little bit. It's odd to hear you say that because you literally just said you don't mind the hard tire, but that's literally the opposite. Like that's the whole point. That's Pirelli 2011. That's Pirelli 2013.
I don't mind them.
Like China. Do you remember China 2013? We had the super soft, and it went for 2-3 laps, and that was it. It was basically a qualifying tire.
I don't want that. That's too extreme.
No, I don't want that either. But that's what a qualifying tire is. So the 10 lap stint is basically what we got in 2011. 2011 Australia. The soft tyres went, I think, what was it? I think Vettel and Hamilton back then would I think it was 15 laps and they made the first pit stop. It was like that, good. Basically.
I just
that's
feel...
a good distance, though.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying. I'm trying to explain myself in a way that I don't sound like a hypocrite, but essentially...
I think this is it. Well, you want the pit stops, you want the stintlets to be the same as worn-out Pirelli tyres like we've been used to now, the 10 laps. But for the entire 10, just the last lap is the one that it really drops off. But for the first...
The drop-off has to hit all of a sudden. I think that'll make it more intriguing
for 14 laps, it'd be great if they could just bang it out. And then the last lap, it just drops off, and it's like, okay, we have to come in the pits now.
It's basically, instead of having a smooth decline like this, I'd much rather have like that, and then all of a sudden...
Bang.
Just bang.
Yeah,
because it would throw spanners in the works. But like I said, I like the harder tyres because I like seeing the consistent fast lap times. Like when you saw Vettel pop in the fast lap of the race.
I did enjoy stint one. Stint one where Vettel was constantly on it, chasing Hamilton. That was good.
Yo-yoing. It was good. And the fact they weren't dependent on tyres. But my theory is, like I said, you've got 5 different compounds. They have to wear equally. The fact that the ultra soft can go 20 odd laps is not really good enough, because if that's your softest tyre, when we go to tracks where tyre wear is not an issue whatsoever, why do we have hard tyres? Why do we have medium tyres? I don't know. It's like my logic is make the gap between the tyres smaller or something. My theory is if you've got hard tyres available, you could have brought hard tyres, mediums and softs to this race if you wanted to do the one stoppers. Do you know what I mean? I don't think you have to make the soft. You don't have to make the softer compounds harder.
It should be like that. Yeah.
Bring the harder. If you want less pit stops, bring the harder compounds, and then that way you still have control as to how you want the races to be. This way, you're forcing yourself to have a procession race with hard, soft tyres because they just don't wear. If you keep the old format where you've got all 5 different compounds that different wear rates, which are consistent-ish. If you go to Australia, you're like, okay, we want a one-stop race, this race. Okay, cool. Bring the hards, the mediums, and the softs. Don't bring the ultras, the supers, and the softs, and then expect them to perform as hard as a harder compound. You see what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I know exactly
I want hard tyres, but they have to be chosen properly and made right and applied correctly.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. Because I can't think of any... Well, with the current wear rate of what the soft was, that race, and bearing in mind that was the hardest tyre that they had, you think of tracks such as Japan, you wouldn't think they'd even need the hard tyres.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's where the issue of old tyres is flawed and goes wrong in current F1, and it won't ever work as good as it used to. Back when the hard tyres were a thing, they pit
refueling. That's the
that
whole
was
point.
the reason.
That's the whole point
so
of the tyre.
The tyres never went.
2011
they just came and changed them, but now they don't refuel.
Was why they brought that in, because they were like, okay, back in the day we had refueling, so that was good. Like that's why we had so many pit stops and that strategy element. So now, because we can't, I don't think we'll ever see refueling back. It's just not. It's a different universe now. It just doesn't make any logical sense in the known universe anymore. So the only way we can get that is by playing around with the tires. That's the only thing that will force drivers to pit.
Yeah.
But as Tom sort of kind of illustrated, it's a very fine art. There's no actual... It's a very tricky balance, because also track to track things change, and
temperatures as well.
Yeah, just because so things like that. Spain ultra softs don't work very well. So if you did have all the 5 compounds, no teams would probably end up picking the ultra softs because there's not enough performance gain. It's a very fine art of Pirelli fine tuning these tires, and obviously the only time they get to do that is in season. But no one kind of likes in season changes like that, where it's fundamentally changing how cars react to everything within the season.
The only rule then I think that would actually make this work would be by introducing or just allowing to have all 5
free
compounds,
choice,
because
perhaps.
Otherwise it makes you wonder why they have 5 compounds. They could just have 2.
I'm saying.
Honestly, and now that our favourite rule has now gone out the window, because you look at the strategies and the biggest stops okay, there was a few two-stoppers. That was Kvyat who got 9th, Hulkenberg that got 11th. Stroll ended up doing 3 starts because he had a massive flat spot on his tyres. But you just saw the ultra softs and softs, and that reminds me of Canada. It honestly Canada, just reminded me of when they made it specific to only to use the soft tyre. And the problem is, I think this year, maybe some tracks it might work, but most tracks, especially Monaco and Russia, we're just going to see them start on they'll probably end up going like ultra softs, then just go super softs, and just go to the end.
They will.
And I watched the classic Australian Grand Prix at 2010, and even then, obviously it started off wet, but they just put on a set of soft tyres and went to the end.
I mean,
and even
that,
but the only reason that race was interesting was because they could overtake each other. But they can't even do that now. That's the problem. There's a fundamental flaw with the tyres.
How can I put it? The 3 tyre concept is not flawed, as in they used an ultra soft and a softer. There's a compound in between that they didn't use, so they went from one to the other. So it still technically worked as a regulation.
In a way, yeah.
But it's not having the desired effect that it was introduced for. Which
like Tom said,
mix it up.
The gaps aren't like the ultra softs going how long they went. It just they need to make it a lot like the difference a lot more like. It just
they need to research it better. It's not. It's flawed.
I mean, obviously, it's tricky. Like, also fair play to that. It's tricky. It's tricky because it was a new set of regulations. They had to make them all harder because they didn't know how much G-force was going to go through. So it was always going to be tricky. But I think now, I honestly think as annoying as it is, I wouldn't be opposed to them introducing a new compact, like redoing the entire tie set like midway through the season, now that they know what the sort of G-forces are, just to try and help that, because obviously the dirty air and the aero effect is not going away. So it
depends. It's like you can vary this, or you can reduce the compounds, so you could have ultra soft, hard. So 1 yes, 1 no, 1 yes, 1 no, every odd one out. Stop making mediums and super softs. Have those 3 extremes. Make those 3 available for every single race, and then let them go on with it. I don't know.
You've got a qualifying tyre and 2 race tyres.
Yeah,
technically.
You can cut it however you want it. So, like, if you got a race that's known for its ridiculous tyre wear, then obviously, if you've got an ultra soft available, do you qualify on that tyre? You've still got that dilemma there, that strategy decision. Will the soft go really long? Or you just have to go into the hard? There's lots of ways they can mix this up, but essentially the current system of reintroducing the harder duration and concept tyres flawed due to the fact that they're not forced to pit in for other reasons, which was refueling. So I think this is something that's going to get highlighted during the season, along with the dirty air and whatnot. But I just want to say quickly on the dirty air. It's a big factor, I understand, but Vettel didn't seem to be struggling that bad behind Hamilton at the start of the race. I think it depends however way you cut it, because if Vettel really wanted to, I think he could have got past him, but you could see he backed off to get the gap.
I don't think so.
I don't think he would have got past him. I think he was
trying to pass him, but he couldn't.
He got within 0.8 and then fell back.
He was close at the start, but he dropped off.
And also, at one point, Hulkenberg on team radio literally said on the team radio, "Wow, this dirty air is ridiculous."
Yeah, they just weren't. The only overtake that I can think of is Ocon. That little battle with Alonso.
I don't think anyone should be surprised in the comments or anything. I mean, everyone's been saying it. We've been saying it for a year.
If you watch this podcast, we've spoke about it for a long time.
Engineers have been saying it. Don't take our word. Engineers were saying it for the entire year last year. That it's a bit of an. Everyone thought 2017 was going to be an exciting change for the cars. They look better. I think we can all agree on that. They look fantastic. But it's a very odd, illogical regulation change for what we're trying to actually fix, which is the racing in F1.
It's made qualifying good. I love seeing the cars on the limit.
Because the cars look great going around at full pelt. That's fixed. That's good. But
that chicane in Australia, oh my god. The cars look absolutely amazing. 7th gear through there. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. 7th.
Amazing.
It was like back in just a couple of years ago when we had the blown diffuser, like 7th gear, just one downshift, chuck it in. It was good to have that back. It was good to have that back because like the 2016 cars even were just too bulky. You had to go down to 6th, lift off quite a bit, and then kind of roll the car through that corner.
No, it wasn't. But I think in relative terms, maybe we can do a rating. We didn't do any ratings last year. Maybe it's about time that we. Because bear in mind though, Yeah, race ratings, but bearing in mind these are relative. So they're relative to the season. So obviously we're kind of going off kind of wildly here. So for the rest of the season, they might be not very relative in terms. Just depends on if the racing improves. But I don't even know what I'd give it, to be fair. But 6. I think yeah.
I would say it would be a 4 if it wasn't for Vettel winning and there being a difference. That takes it up to like a 5 or a 5.5 for me.
I was going to say a 4.
Okay, normally it's me that's the one that I always get slated in the comments because I'm normally too harsh, but today I've been quite generous.
It was a ball fest. I'm being honest. I'm not clouded by my judgment of the race. I can
these
be
are my
objective
two sides of
enough
the
to
coin.
see this.
Great to see Vettel win, like back on it. Great to see different winner. There was many parts of that race where I was like, this is genuinely quite worrying at how nothing's happening here.
But my qualm is, I don't, even though I agree it was a boring race, there's a massive overreaction criticising the boringness way too much, as if we haven't seen boring races. Have you forgotten Baku last year? No,
bro. Yeah, and I think I'll fully admit I'm probably guilty of that, but I don't actually think in my eyes I've overreacted. I think I've just taken it with the same.
You've overreacted.
I think I've said the same reaction as I said for any other boring race in 2016. Like that wasn't like overly boring. That was just the same as some of the boring races we had last year. But that was the whole point. Like it. And I didn't buy into the hype. A lot of people, I think, bought into the hype that these regs were going to bring exciting racing, whereas the entire time, obviously, us three have been saying it on the podcast. But it was like, I'm actually gutted that we were correct, that the engineers were correct. I actually had a really small shred of hope that, maybe we'll be wrong. I really hope we are wrong, and that it's going to be great. But it was just, But here's hope in China. I'll admit that as well. Australia. Melbourne, I should say, not Australia, not the Australian Grand Prix. As a place to go, the fans are great, vibes great. That track is just utterly crap for racing. So we'll see in China, high-speed corners, what these new era cars can do. But I think we've gone on for long enough and quite in depth for a first race. Usually we don't go this long. Usually it's only about 30 minutes. So, but to be fair, it wasn't obviously a race where it's like, we want to try and get this out as fast as possible to get your kind of views on it. So, if you did enjoy this one, leave a like. Let us know what you thought of everything we discussed in the comments below. If you're new around here, do subscribe to this channel for the podcast. Links in the description to all three of us. And also our Twitter is above our names. And obviously, as usual, you can check us out on SoundCloud as well if you want to do that for the audio version on mobile as well. But that's been our review for the Australian Grand Prix. We'll return next weekend for a bit of a roundup of news or anything. Obviously, there'll be the F1 media analysing that race, so it'll be interesting to see what their reaction is. I think, honestly, from what I'm seeing right now, the inkling might be quite different. They're trying to hype it up as much as they can. We'll discuss that next weekend. But we'll see you guys then. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Do you want to say something, Tom, at the end?
Oh, I was going to say, technically speaking, as bad of a race it was, on paper we have a title fight. So
Yes.
Yeah. At least we got that. That's something to look forward to, genuinely.
At least we have a title fight.
Yeah. A development race. If not a race on track, a race in the headquarters of the teams. There we go. I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy today. Goodbye.